So a while back, I released a video titled Why Moving Back to Thailand Made Perfect Sense. And in that video, I outlined why I was 100% happier being not just in Thailand, but in base. So in this video, I thought I'd explain the flip side of that and just talk about why I have decided to leave England for good. Hey guys, so I'm going to split this video into 5 points about why I decided to leave England. You can see the chapters down below, and I'm going to try my best to be as not positive, but avoid being too negative in this video. Let's see how I get on. So it was around this time last year that I decided to leave Pure Gym, and I knew that my time in England would be coming to an end. But why was that? And is England really as bad as a lot of people make it out to be? Well, like I said, I'm going to explain 5 of my reasons why I decided to leave. So let's get into it. So the very first reason is cost of living. So it's no secret that Britain is going through a cost of living crisis, and it's been that way for a good couple of years. The house that I was living in, rent every month was £625. Now this is actually on the lower end of the price range. I remember I did a lot of house hunting the summer before when I arrived in Reading, England, and there were many places that were starting above £1,000 per month in rent. But I was lucky because the place I was staying in was inclusive of bills. So internet, electricity, water, heating, council tax, all of that is included in the monthly rent. I did my very, very best to keep expenses as low as I possibly could. I had to, I didn't really have much choice. I walked to work every single day. This was a half-an-hour walk. So luckily the expenses for transport was 0, although this did come at a cost of time. It did take me a lot of time to commute to work there and back. Eating out was kept to a bare minimum, so I did loads of grocery shops and I cooked at home a lot of the time. Again, these grocery shops were not really at Tesco or Sainsbury's because that's kind of like the mid-range supermarkets. I had to go to places like Aldi, like Lidl, because I could buy loads of quality groceries at a much lower price. And outside of work, fun stuff, things to do, meeting up with friends or playing mini golf or even visiting my granddad in another town in England. But it definitely felt like I couldn't have too many of these fun moments or just actually enjoy myself a little bit because it was putting a big strain on my bank balance. You know, even being at home, I've mentioned earlier that my bills were inclusive in the rent, but had I kept the heating on 24/7, I knew for sure there would have been an increase in rent by my landlord. So yeah, it just felt like I was scrimping and scraping a lot of the time when I was in England. This was penny pinching just in order to kind of stay afloat and making ends meet for a very basic lifestyle. So compare that with the life that I had in Thailand the year before. It just felt like continuing to stay in England didn't make a lot of sense at all. I remember last summer, me and my family, we went to Weymouth for a week and we had lunch at a local fish and chip shop. I kid you not, the bill for the 4 of us, we ordered fish and chips, medium-sized portion. I think it was haddock and chips, doesn't matter. But for 4 of us, it was £65. 65 quid can get you a very, very nice meal in Thailand. So here's the thing, I've got no problem paying high prices, right? If you get what you pay for. But what did the £65 get? Well, it got you a mid-sized portion of fish and chips in a cardboard box with grease paper underneath it. The utensils that were given in the restaurant were wooden disposable ones. And if you wanted extra ketchup, you actually had to pay an extra 50 pence for this. But at least the tap water was free. But £65, for that price, you really expect a much nicer meal and not just fish and chips. It's not just the food though. Let's talk about transport. There was one day I had to go from Reading to London. I didn't have a rail card, which is like a discount card that you can get with trains when you're traveling in England. The ticket cost me £30 for a day return. Reading to London really isn't that far. £30, that gets you trains that are always late, always have rail strikes, and a lot of the time I couldn't even sit down. The train carriage was so full that I had to stand the entire journey. And if the journey is like, you know, an hour, 2 hours, then it's just not very pleasant. That's the reason why I got very frustrated with prices in England last year. Which brings me on to my second point, quality of life. So you're all probably thinking that I got a very good deal with a house, with rent, with bills included, with council tax and all the fees in one, right? You have a point. However, the house that I was in last year was a shared house. 5 people, yes, 5. And despite that, there was only 1 kitchen. So I was cooking and preparing all my meals, doing meal prep, because at that time I was bulking as well. I was really trying to build on some serious muscle when I was cooking, and I could hear the floorboards creaking upstairs. I could hear someone coming down the stairs. My heart just sank because I just knew there'd be that awkward moment in the kitchen where it's, hey, how are you? You're right. Yeah, good, thanks. And then you just kind of get on with your day. It was just kind of like this fake politeness going on in that house. And also trying to film cooking videos for this YouTube channel, not ideal when you're in a shared house. And you've got your phone on a tripod there and you've got people walking in, it's just awkward to say the least. So the quality of life wasn't the best. As I mentioned earlier, when I did grocery shopping, I only went to places like Aldi, Asda, Lidl. These are kind of like the budget supermarkets in England. Like I said in one of my earlier videos about moving back to Thailand, why it made perfect sense. The quality of life in Thailand compared with the quality of life in England is just night and day. I think the biggest frustration that I had with life in England was just the amount of time spent on general life maintenance. So I was working quite hard in Pure Gym and I had a good couple of clients. I had shifts at Pure Gym, so I was busy. However, if I wasn't commuting there and back, because like I said, quite a long trek, but when I wasn't doing that, so I wasn't working, I wasn't commuting, I was spending a vast majority of my time doing grocery shopping, preparing my food, cooking it, and I'm someone who absolutely despises cooking. I really envy the people who get so much enjoyment when they cook. I'm in the kitchen and I'm preparing my food. The happiest moment that I get is when I'm finished and I can actually eat the food, not when I'm cooking. That year in England was just really frustrating. I was trying to spend my time outside of work quite productively, like I am now, like creating YouTube videos, trying to give as much value as possible. And it just felt like I had very little time left over to try and grow this YouTube channel because I was spending all of my time cooking, grocery shopping, walking to and from work. Yeah, it was exhausting. Okay, the third point I wanted to mention in this video is opportunities. Now this might surprise you, but the opportunity that I had at Pure Gym with my work, being a fitness coach, it was no better. In fact, I would say it was a little bit worse than the opportunity that I had in base and in Bangkok already. You see, my situation was a little bit different to two good friends that I had when I was in England. So one of them is a PhD student at the University of Reading, and the other one has her own cleaning business. So she employs quite a few staff, employees, clean people's houses, and she's the business owner and she's got quite a good thriving business. Both of these good friends of mine weren't British, they were from overseas. But you see, for me, the work opportunity that I had at Pure Gym was no upgrade from base. That friend of mine who has her own cleaning business, she's told me many times that if she sets up something similar in Brazil, which is where she's from, if she sets that up back home, she would make nowhere near as much income as she can when she's in England. The same thing with my friend doing his PhD, with the research, the facilities, there's everything available at the University of Reading. I don't think he could find the same back in his home country. And they were in England simply because the work opportunities that they had were better for them in England than back in their home countries. Again, the same could not be said about me. So with that in mind, leaving England became even easier. Also, whilst we're on the subject of opportunities, I should also point out that at Pure Gym, I didn't really have a competitive advantage. You see, in Thailand, I'm fluent in Thai. I can also speak English quite well, and that just puts me above most general fitness coaches in Thailand. In England, there was nothing that really made me stand out. I didn't really have a USP. And on top of this, the fitness industry in England, I'm pretty sure, is a lot more saturated than Thailand. So naturally, being in Thailand, I feel like I'll be able to level up a lot easier than if I'm in England. Contrary to what I thought before I went to England, I thought that being in England is going to make me level up because there's a lot of competition there, but being there for a year has just been a real eye-opener in many areas, especially with work, with opportunities, the fitness industry as a whole. And point number 4 is the weather. So this is not difficult at all. I'm someone who really likes seeing blue skies, sunshine, warmth all year round, and England is not the best place for that, especially in the winter months when I was walking to work. It was very miserable, it was cold, it was freezing, and just not pleasant at all. Whereas in Thailand at the moment, I can easily get to work. Rainy season is only during certain months of the year. It's not all year round. I don't have to worry as much in Thailand as getting wet, getting soaked, getting drenched. And even if I do, public transport is really affordable. I remember when I was in Reading and it was raining, I had a bag full of groceries and I had to get home. The bus, the single journey ticket bus, cost me £2. Again, not that much on the face of it, but if I do that frequently, that does accumulate and add up. So which brings me back to the cost of living point. I have lived in England before, and I was so confident this time round moving back to England 2 years ago, the weather wouldn't affect me, that I wouldn't have the winter depression, or I wouldn't let it affect me. I could just put on some warm clothes on, but no, it really did. When the temperatures are freezing and it gets dark at 4 in the afternoon, it's just grey skies, it's just miserable, it's depressing. Even not just the weather, but everyone around you is just doom and gloom. People aren't very social, very chatty, because everyone's trying to get home in a hurry because they want to get in their warm houses. Not fun, not a good vibe at all. And I definitely missed Thailand even more during those winter months when I was in England. I remember there was one day last June when we went to Weymouth. We as in my family, we went to Weymouth. This was right in the middle of summer, and yet for many days, maybe even a week or two in June last year, the temperature never really got above 15 degrees. I think there were times when it was just constantly like 12, 13 degrees. But I'm an optimistic guy, you know, I looked outside the window of the Airbnb. If you look at these two pictures, these were actually only one day apart. So I think in one day in England, the weather can change very quickly. Never mind one day actually, in the same day, you can actually get multiple seasons. So in the morning, it could be really gloomy, really rainy, really cold. And then later on in the day, in the late afternoon, the sun's out, it's blue skies, and the roads are all kind of dried up from the sun. And yeah, you just never know what you can get with the weather in England, I guess. I've heard so many people say that they love the seasons in England. Expats, Brits, so many people in Thailand say the thing that they miss about England the most is the seasons, you know, the transition of seasons. But I never really resonated with that because I asked them, what's your favorite season? And they always say, oh, summer. So brings me on to the question, surely wouldn't you want it to be like that all year round? I guess when it's April and the days get longer, and then instead of getting dark at 5 or 6, it gets dark at, you know, 7, 8 p.m. and the days get longer. That transition is quite nice. But for me, I don't think you necessarily have to endure the unpleasant, depressing weather in order to enjoy the good times, if you see what I mean. And point number 5 is social life, or things to do. So when I was in Reading, I didn't find that there was that much to do. I did have some fun, so don't get me wrong. I went bowling, I did mini golf, I also visited my granddad a few times. I found that a lot of the time when I was trying to enjoy myself, I had to make kind of a day trip to London to meet friends or to try restaurants or to do something fun and enjoyable. But within Reading itself, it didn't seem like there was that much to do. It's a little bit different with my parents. So my dad, maybe it's an age thing, but he very much enjoys the countryside, these long country walks, scenic parks. I'm not really into that. I much prefer the city life, having the convenience of having everything here. Being in Bangkok, I love the shopping malls. I love the landscape, the rooftop bars. In England, you don't really get that. Again, unless you're in London and you're able to pay for rooftop bars, which I can only imagine are a lot more expensive than in Bangkok. But yeah, I didn't find that there was that much to do in Reading. Again, it could tie down with the cost of living and just how expensive things are. You know, if you want to have a bit of fun, it's really going to cost you a fair bit of money. In Thailand, it does cost you a bit as well, but not as much as England. Maybe that just naturally opens up more doors, more opportunities. If you want to join societies, clubs, groups, anything, you can do that. And in Bangkok, there are loads of touristy things to do. So since I've been back last September, there have been times when I've put my tourist cap on, gone out with a friend, and actually did a bit of sightseeing. Or if very occasionally I want a night out and I'm willing to sacrifice on sleep, then I can actually enjoy a night out without breaking the bank in Thailand. So those are my top 5 reasons why I decided to leave England for good. I can't see myself living back in England, unfortunately. I've had a combined 5 years in England when you look back at my 3 years at university and also my 1 year working in London before COVID or during COVID. But the only time that I'm going to be there is if I'm on holiday. I can't see myself going back there to live. Thanks for the memories, England, but no thank you. If you're still watching at this point in the video, I really appreciate you. I know that I've rambled on a little bit. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you're in England, do you think that I'm very pessimistic, very negative? Or if you agree with some of the points that I made, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments, so comment down below. I should reply to comments a lot quicker in English compared with my Thai videos. I'd also like to add that I know I'm very, very blessed in Thailand and in base, because one common question a lot of people might think is that, yes, cost of living is more expensive in England, but if you move to somewhere like Thailand, surely doesn't your income drop as well? Well, the thing is, not really, because me working at base pays very, very well. And when you compare it with what I was earning at Pure Gym, not so much the earnings just at Pure Gym, but it's just the expenses that I had to pay, the gym rent that they charged. It was just a no-brainer of which situation was better for me. But again, I know I'm very privileged, very blessed, because you know, if anyone's working in a typical gym chain around Thailand, like a Fitness First or a Virgin Active, I know that they might not be as lucky to be able to have a good income or a good wage. All right, so I am mindful of the potential earning situation as a fitness coach in Thailand. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Speaking of which, it is going to be a video about the reasons why I left Pure Gym. So you might want to subscribe for that. If you missed an earlier video that I created about why moving back to Thailand made perfect sense, that will be linked at the end of this, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.